live, sign live, saying live.
Okay.
Oh, there it is, and there it is.
Yeah.
It is.
There it
Yes,
is.
I.
We live and
Share it up,
direct.
share it up.
Share up the live. Let me share up the live one time now, fellas. All right,
Share it up.
So welcome one and all. Good night, villagers, and we are once again back in everybody's favorite room, the Heights room. Well, I know it's my favorite room to be in these days. All right. According to time, it is now 8:30. It's Wednesday, May 19th, and believe it or not,
20th out here.
okay, okay. Where I am is Wednesday, May 19th. I believe it or
Let's
not.
in the future.
Wait
It
now.
is-
When you hold on, it's your birthday. It's your birthday, no?
Exactly.
Oh, shit.
Believe it or not,
Yes, no.
it is
Oh,
my
my
birthday.
Gotta blaze it
Thank
up,
you
blaze it
so
up, blaze it
much.
up, blaze it up, blaze it up.
More fire!
More fire! Blaze up the fire, dude. Blaze it up, blaze it up. Yeah.
Somebody had a
Oh
press
my
button.
goodness, lava.
Lava.
No, let me tell you know, right? That I choose to come in the Heights room for my birthday. Why? Because I love all you. I love all
Correct,
you.
that's right.
Right? I love all
For the
you.
love of the music.
I love
Yes.
love of the music, love of the people, love of TNT. All right, we in this thing together. TNT, state of emergency. That's what we're talking about right now. Okay, today we're gonna look. I get a little in depth into the state of emergency situation.
As we are smoke jet.
But
Right.
before we get into the state of emergency itself, I mean, at the end of the day, it can't be all gloom and doom, my friends. I mean, it's my birthday after all. So what we want to do right about now is we want to get into a little roundup of what it is really going on these days in a little segment we like to call the good, the bad, and the ugly. I can't get it, but you know,
Yeah,
always
man.
go, right?
Yeah. Boom, we will get to that.
So the good, the bad. So don't forget to share, people. Share it up. All right. I don't know. I find like sometimes it is so difficult to get the share going. Sometimes on my page, but we'll get there. All right.
Who are the boss out window there, boy? Strong fire.
So what I want first, the good, the bad, or the ugly?
I say hit them the bad.
Let me start in the middle.
Bad. Start in the middle.
The bad. All right, the bad. So who getting on bad this week? Right now, my union getting on very bad. And rightfully so. Tutor asked everybody to stay away from schools.
So what I was doing before? All I had school before?
No, exactly, right?
I
But
worthless.
it's supposed to be understood. But what happening is,
And rightfully so.
you will have
Everybody to stay
we get a feedback there from somebody, right? What you would have is obviously that every school, just like how every health center did their own thing during the vaccination, every school does do their own thing to a certain degree. And you don't know who pulling our heights and saying you had to come in to do this, you had to come in to do that. It's a lab going on here. It's a lab because we did have the order that students had to go out and do their labs and so on, right? That can't be going on no more. Right now, state of emergency, right? So, but besides that, what they're really bringing into question is the CXC and the SCA, right? Those things are carded to happen very soon. All right. Now I don't know exactly about as what's happening in I believe June. SCA I believe is in June, and I believe CXC starts around there as well. So what we are looking at is a whole situation because there have also been a lot of talk from the ministry for people to defer their exams and all that, and that is a big issue because if the whole year group choose to defer and the Form 4s go up in Form 5 next year, how are you gonna have 2 times the amount of students, right? Do it. So all these different things coming up right now because the ministry is saying if you're feeling not confident, you could defer. So it's a lot of different things with that. So Twitter get on bad there in that regard. Head nurse calls for international help. John Mark help you out here now. And for those of you watching who not shows the man in the corner there, well in my right hand corner, I don't know what corner in for here. We have John Mark Suku joining us tonight.
Yes, sir.
He's not representing anybody per se, but he's here. All right, Doc.
This drama with the potong in the background,
Yeah. Right?
Yeah, boy. And she
So
was
what?
quiet all the time, you know. I can't call my name. It's just noise, boy.
Dog. Well, you know how he does who? You know how he does Rolly Patongs, right?
Right.
Um, Jamak, what's this thing about the headness calling for international help? You have anything, any insight on that? Or that is
Honestly, that's the first I heard about this, you know. Tell me what you know.
what? So what? Let's see what
Yeah,
going on there.
Cuba. She basically says she want Cuba help because right now the ICUs and ACUs, HDUs on 100%. And basically she's saying as nurses, them max out long time. And she calling for international
Okay.
help because like, you know, all they're saying all the pressure on them as nurses. So them want Cubans to come in. And she say, yeah, that is she position. But I don't understand. What's the difference between ICU and HDU?
DU, ICU is like ICU is pretty
Right,
much. I would
DU, so it's high
Jamak, take it away.
dependency.
Jamak, take it away. Yeah, Jamak, take it away.
So
Jamak, take it
it
away.
levels are care. So your ICU is your highest level, your HDU is come after, that's high dependency, and everything else is like ward after. So the amount of staff assigned per patient is changed, the level of care is changed, the intensity, so to speak, of the care is changed. That thing that they're doing there makes sense because right now the whole health system in a shortage because from our side, people getting diagnosed with COVID, being having to put on quarantine, they can't work. Look, if one doctor get diagnosed positive, think about the staff around them that gonna have to get put as primary contacts in the quarantine, so they will get short staff. People sick, people getting quarantined, whether you're well or not. I mean, they're making a stay regardless. So I can understand the call for the international help. It makes sense. And Cuba is our source of healthcare workers that we've always tapped into. That's our former export for Cuba. That's their sugar cane.
Right.
So it makes sense to call from there. And I mean, I'm gonna say that that's not mean, but I mean, ICU patients don't typically be very conscious because there's be sedated and things. I mean, if they speak in Spanish, that is so bad.
What's
For me,
right.
I remember going in Point Hospital on it when it had an influx of nurses, and to me the Cuban nurses was real good. You know, them handle me 100%. You understand what I'm saying? So that is just my experience. You know what I mean? So I mean, I guess the lady under pressure. So you know.
So Jamak, so you talk about a little bit there, you say the can you give us an idea like what's the state of the hospitals? You say they're running out, the capacity getting high. What give me an idea where's that capacity running out? Not getting high, capacity getting max. So if you could speak on something.
Let me say on a scale of 1 to 10, with 10 being the worst, is about as old as Qatar is today. So
Oh, that was a low blow.
I know spring chicken, guys. I know spring chicken. It ain't what it used to be. All right, it ain't what it used to be.
So it's kind of it's pretty bad in that so you know we have this parallel health system, and if you remember we talked about that a few weeks ago, where it have a separate health system to deal with COVID patients specifically, right? That situation pretty much full. They max convert everything. They convert to COVID now. The ICU, the HDU in all different places. It borderline full all the time because it always have people moving out, but it pretty much considered full. The wards they have too also full. They could no longer take people at random now. Because before, if you feel like you want to come there and quarantine, you could have do that. There was a point when things were so good, we could have do that, but not anymore. Now you had to be sick, you had to fulfill a certain criteria before they say, all right, here what we gotta find a space for you. And then when they say that, you still have to wait a little while before they find a space for you. And when I say I heard a few cases of people waiting a couple of days to get a bed to be moved from their house where they're not feeling well, they might be having trouble breathing or something, to get moved to the system. Other than the parallel system, the hospital system itself,
Yikes!
it's falling apart per se, but it have things happening. And it also, we start testing most of the patients that coming in now just to see if we ward in our patients who may be COVID positive and we don't know. And you find out when you test them, they sit on the ward for a few days, results taking long because it have so much people being tested now. They sit on for a few days, they come back positive, and you had to test the 4 people around them. And imagine you sit on a ward 24/7. You had to wear a mask 24/7. You're home in your bed on the hospital. You sit on, you had to wear a mask, you can't have the man next to you in the bed. you had to wash your hand all the time. I think of all the services there, it hard to maintain as a patient to maintain those COVID protocols right through in your brain. Imagine the insanity you're going through. You have a mask all the time. You're always conscious of what you're touching, what you're doing. So I mean, it could spread in the hospital system, the normal hospital system, very easily.
Right now, from what I'm hearing, right, guys, is that there's, and Jamak was saying, it's not an easy thing to transfer somebody to places like Cuba and thing anymore. And there are a lot of people looking at the cases, my friends. We have 600 cases yesterday and 23 deaths, right? So what we really telling myself, we know that there are a lot of people who are coming in the hospital, not for COVID, just for other things, and they have to go through their mandatory checks and swab and so on. And before you know it, you realize you have a suite that's full of COVID positive people, right? Because of the fact that somebody came into the suite, right, without knowing that they had COVID. And before you know this, they on there for a few days, and when they do get a positive, everybody else in that suite is positive, and it's just a jam. You understand? And that's what this is what is going on. You know what I mean? This is what is going on. It's not easy right now in the hospitals, and big up to all the frontline workers right now who on in the trenches, I would say. Right? What percentage of healthcare workers vaxxed, Jamak?
What percent? I have no clue, boy.
Yeah.
Percentage, I have no clue.
But if you can agree a percent, would you say the uptake is people interested in getting it, or people hesitant, or mix, or what you're thinking?
I think people, even the ones who were hesitant, I would say most of them ended up getting vaccinated at some point anyway. They have a few who still didn't get it for whatever varied reasons. But I would say majority of people I know ended up going for it. Even the ones who at the beginning was like, nah, they're taking that, or they're waiting to see, or whatever. Even those still, as far as I know, went and get it.
Right. Okay.
So
The
I
hospital?
can't name any doctors who in the hospital, yeah.
The hospital mandate.
You mean staff members, or you mean they don't have to.
Okay.
Right.
But Jamak, is it that when you had that testing and thing to do, is all you running the tests? Doctors?
No, it's just to do the swab and send it off. It's just to do the swab and send it to the lab.
So it's private labs and thing doing the testing then?
Right.
There are private labs doing the test as well, but the hospital, the public system does handle itself, and people could go and pay privately and do the test if they want to.
So what kind of tests are they doing? The normal Regant PCR tests?
The hospital doing both PCR. Well, I could talk for Southwest Hospital. They're doing the PCR test, which is the nasopharyngeal swab, and they also now recently started to do the antigen. I haven't seen it with my own eyes yet, but I heard they started to do it.
So this brings us back to the fact that this is why we are having people like the head nurse and so on calling for international help right now. So we are in a situation here, people, where we have people calling for international help, and as I say, we brethren in Cuba, they might have to step in or something if it is that we could organize that flick. Now moving on with the bad, right? We remember we in the good, bad, and the ugly session right now. And really bad is a lot now, boys. So we just get it, right? So with the bad, you have your boy Elon Musk. He destroyed Bitcoin there or something. What is I know it's in the crypto.
Well, remember we had to do an episode on that, for people to understand how it is they could think, because people had to eat our food in this COVID time, and crypto is seen as how to eat a little food. But the problem with the what Elon's saying is all this time Elon was silent on it, and now he come out with two coins, a Shiba Inu coin and a Doge coin. You notice when you go on Facebook, you see all them Doge coin and
Doge.
So Elon big with that coin. Yep. So he bash Bitcoin and them early cryptos that come out and say all the Bitcoin mining and that kind of thing undermining the environment and causing climate change and that kind of thing. And he went and do that on SNL, which caused a set of bacchanal, and Bitcoin just went whoosh.
Right. So they ban it. As he's probably saying they ban it as payment in China. Like that what going on there?
What?
I don't know.
There you go. I think Tesla banned it. Because before you could have used any Bitcoin to buy like Tesla and thing. Tesla say no. You understand? So hey, look the man there. Yeah. Bitcoin China banning.
Most of the
That way
Bitcoin
too.
crash.
You were there.
Right, so you see
That's
what's going on.
the
So people getting on bad out there. But let me go move to the good now, fellas. Right? We'll choose the ugly for last because the bad and the ugly very related. But I mean, when thing ugly, it's ugly, right? That is not even getting on bad. That is ugly, right? That is real ugly situations right now we have to deal with. Now the good. Well, the first good I would say, well, it's my birthday, right? So I mean, after all that thing again. So this is my birthday party here, really and truly. It's an alternate birthday bash. I want to bring all the coolers, bring all the girls, right? Bring all the beers and all, right? It's an alternate.
We can drink
right?
to that now. We can drink to that.
19th, the 3rd of February. All right. What we have here? Thanks, Nanda. Thanks, A. So what's going on?
20 girls coming for the birthday bash by Qatar.
I see that.
Big up Vasha. Me hear about Vasha in a while. Big up.
Thank you. What we have here is we have a new He-Man coming out, my friends. All right, He-Man. There's a good thing. These are the good things happening. There's a new He-Man coming out. Now I don't know if the He-Man is going to get a little backlash for using the he. There might be a Dayman this time around. So I'm really not sure how it's going to work this wrong. Because I mean, you see what's going on. Demi Lovato came out as non-binary today, so Demi Lovato is now they. All right. So in case you said they
might be a day man.
There might be a they man, right? Yeah, that happened today.
Or a he woman.
They are now they, right? Now New Castlevania 4. That's that was the season.
Correct.
Now
right.
I haven't started it yet.
Yeah.
Never watched Castlevania. I hear it's one of the best animes, one of the best series on Netflix. Right?
Without a doubt. Yeah.
Right?
But I am an anime long time cutter, you understand? Since Battle Side days, you understand? Or as Dukaran point out, Battle Tech and Techno Man, and them was the early thing when you're ducking lessons to watch, you know what I mean? TTT cartoon and what, not really Techno Man and all kind of thing, you understand?
Yeah.
Castlevania. I get excited. Castlevania right up there, fellas, you understand?
Anybody ever
story on point?
Well, the only anime I watch since Kenshi is this one that big these days, Attack on Titan. That is
Attack on Titan good, but that's still a baby compared to Castlevania.
Nah, I don't think anything I could see could touch that. I find that real badass. I find that
Attack on Titan.
I find
Attack on Titan. I finished that a long time. Season 4, I done that. I watched live action.
I have the last season to take in still.
It's still one more season to go. You know what I mean? So like it's very. I read the manga as well. I'll hold off on that. I don't want to get deep in that right now. The next good. There's a new Metalocalypse movie coming on. So for the adult fans out there, right? Who know Death Clock, right? My rock men out there, my metal men out there, right? Death Clock is back. We're gonna have a Death Clock movie soon. All right, Metalocalypse coming back in a big way. So that's gonna be real hard. So get your coffee, right? Just get ready. Our next good thing is, well, we get the Sinopharm day, fellas. The Sinopharm dropped today. The Sinopharm dropped today. So with the Sinopharm, we are going to be able to vaccinate a lot more. What I'm seeing is that it's going to still be a bit of phase 1 being rolled out. So we'll get to that probably a little later, in that they're still going to do elderly. As to how much of it is going to be for that, and then with the AstraZeneca second doses having to happen, we'll see how it goes. But the Sinopharm, the vaccine from China, right? It's from China, right? Is here, and I think at this point in time, people are going to be very, very welcoming to it with arms wide open. Because
all our hesitancy talk done.
That's done.
Sweetie reach.
Yeah. But what I'm seeing is
cola.
Well, I was seeing this in the ugly, but I think this is the good. KFC in Antigua for the vaxxers. So if you take a vax in Antigua, you're getting KFC. Is this real? What is this real life?
100%. Antigua news. Antigua 100% news. Yeah. The Prime Minister come on that real fact for that. and he in little war with the health minister because they officially say you get a bucket of KFC if you come in and get a thing. But what the opposition saying is that you should not have bribed the population to come. But I know, you could say that bacchanal, but Trinis wouldn't have business. You understand? The moment you drop a two-piece with the vaccine, it'll line outside the door.
Problem solved. And
So-
unless I think that as a Trinidadian, there's no way we can have the word ugly and KFC in the same sentence, my boy.
Correct,
So we have to.
right. That my bad.
So
That because I tell man, I just put a little bad mind in it.
I myself, but at the end of the day, the general consensus we are catered to. We don't know the audience, right? KFC
Correct.
is ruler in Trinidad and Tobago. If Colonel Sanders was alive, he would have been the Prime Minister of Trinidad and Tobago, right? But you understand? He would have been he would have been ultimate ruler, as a matter of fact. He would have gone back to the monarchy. All right.
Yeah.
I actually see that 2 seats. $1 million they give away in a lottery. The lottery going every Wednesday. Once you get a vaccine, you get in place in a lottery. And
What?
it has some science behind that too, because big sides in terms of giving carrot and stick policy for people to take the vaccine. Because this state, I can't remember the state right now, they do a study and they say $20 is too little bit of an incentive, because people go think, if you're just giving me $20, something had to be wrong. So they ain't going to take it. So you had to kind of up the incentive to force people to take it. Now, what that incentive is, a chance to win $1 million or a bucket of KFC. I guess
a new car.
No, bribe is coming different forms, fellas.
That's it. So
Bribe is coming different forms. They see how the US start this thing with no masks.
in Ohio, yeah.
True.
That's what they think.
We will come back to that. In the ugly, we'll come back to that no mask thing. I want to talk about that, right? Right. And I see this thing. China just landed its Mars rover. What's going on? Talk to me. Talk to me.
17 probes now on Mars. China say, well, NASA can't be the only one. Them just drop their Mars rover and the tech is to the moon. You understand? So they're saying, they ain't going for, ting, them going and cut out them piece of the pie. So Mars becoming a big piece of the pie. So them just land a couple days ago.
So
that to the moon comment wasn't pun intended, or that was by mistake.
Well, boy, you know what I mean? As Torian tell me last week, production quality had to, you understand? We had to satisfy the audience, you understand? So we gone, you understand?
Well, yeah. Well, I mean, in a few years, it's honeymoon on Mars. You don't see that. All right. So let's get down to the ugly. All right. No, I think it have 2 more. Good. Cuba. Was the US TT vaccine? Cuba start vaccine. I'm not too sure.
Well, what it is apparently we start negotiations with the US to fall in line with the most recent news from the US that they're going to donate a lot of the vaccines that they were hoarding. You understand?
Right. Right.
You understand? So apparently, CARICOM trying to leverage position as CARICOM head to try and understand pull. So they're trying to pull that, but in the meantime, Cuba don't start mass vaccination with the homegrown vaccine. You understand what I'm saying? So, their vaccine had reached stage 3 trials in WHO, and they start mass vaccination last week, Wednesday.
So, isn't Cuba prepping up to be like a vaccination superpower at this point in time? Can we say that? Yeah. And again,
the mafia that we talk about, you understand?
The mafia
strong.
And the mafia here will not want Cuba to be a front runner in the vaccine game. All you know that.
True.
The mafia here ain't want Cuba to be no front runner. But coming back to this thing about US, right? Having the given the vaccines, and was that the thing where Biden recently made a comment about AstraZeneca being given out to nations that need it? Yeah. And that caused us still, because of a clip, and how it's going with the social media mafia too, and the viral mafia, right? They put that clip, and it's like the man, Biden is a very bumbling kind of guy now when he's speaking. Yeah, he's not the most smoothest guy. A bit geriatric when you come to think of it.
Right.
And when he is speaking about this thing, he was like, "Now let me let you understand. I don't know what he's trying to prove. Like he didn't want people to feel. He didn't want to let people think we're giving away all the vaccine now. So he's like, wow, let me let you understand. This vaccine is the vaccine that we don't not taking because we know if it's working good now. So we giving it out. But what he's just trying to say is the FDA didn't approve it yet. But even that's just sounding like he's saying, we giving this away earlier because this not safe. That's what it sounds like.
Only foreign use.
Yeah, that is what it sounds like. But again, we all know AstraZeneca is not anything inferior or anything like that. So that's good news at the end of the day. But people was like, the vaccine anti-vacciners, not the anti-vaxxers, the anti-COVID vacciners, right? They run with that. They run and say, you see what you say? You see what you say? So again, what good for we might be good for we neighbor, apparently.
Well, that's
all
right.
So the ugly now. Getting back to what we really about here, and in the Heights room, we deal with a lot of the ugly, really and truly. You know what I mean? And although it is a time of celebration and pomp, in my household and within the wider community, it have a real serious problem right now with this COVID in Trinidad. And I had to switch it up here, people, because we're looking at what is it? ICU 519, HDU 331. That's what we're talking about.
519 cases, 331 deaths. So
331 deaths. Okay, right. Let's see. We had to type all these things next time, bro.
The handwriting wasn't too professional.
Yeah. Right. So what we have going on here, right? 519, 331 cases yesterday, but there were 23. There were 600 cases. Which day was 623?
Day before.
Day before. Okay.
Yeah.
500.
So this is live results.
How many deaths yesterday?
I ain't sure, but I know it was 23 day before.
331.
Yesterday was 16.
16.
Right.
I think it was 16.
331 deaths in all so far.
How much
for the month? How much for the month of May? We're looking at a lot, and we're looking at over 100 for sure by now.
Yeah.
500 over 3 days. Yes, 500 over 3 days. Now, how it works, right? Guys,
active cases, not deaths.
Yeah, active cases. But understand what the gravity of what I'm saying, eh? The gravity of what I'm saying, Cutter, is if Joma could correct me if I'm wrong, but what I heard in the Prime Minister, where he put up all the fancy graphs and whatnot, Dr. Richards, who talking about the institutions and that kind of thing, she said basically we entire healthcare system, public healthcare system, is 532 beds. That's sounding reasonable. That what she said? 532 beds.
The COVID,
so,
the COVID system, not the regular system.
So So let me say this parallel system, 532 beds, and how much active cases we had yesterday? 519. Understand what I mean, eh? That's one day.
That's new cases, huh? So that's just new cases. That's not necessarily how much is active from the day before, from the time before.
Right. So that just adding to the existing load on the parallel healthcare system, basically. You understand?
How much is the number total active cases now, and you'll figure out what your ratios looking like.
And that's the point that she was making, that you have people coming in and being hospitalized, the ICUs and HDUs full, but the rate at which people getting released compared to the new cases that coming in is just too much. You understand what I'm saying? And on top of that, what I hear some talk in the black market, the mafia black market on the ground, that nobody could get oxygen. They say everybody holding oxygen, everybody on the end buying out oxygen. So whereas you will look for a little doubles or a little hola in your freezer because you're holding that, what men holding now is oxygen tank in Trinidad. You understand? So I know men trying to create their own HD
My
home.
Instagram ads give me oxygen today.
No way.
Like I was swiping through stories.
How much
and I
for
get
oxygen? How much for
and
oxygen?
It was 3,700 for the tank and the apparatus to administer, and the tank looks small too. And I swipe it, and I'll swipe back, and I was like, wait, what? Why
Oh,
you
yeah, that's
ask for
how it
oxygen
is.
for?
Yeah,
Yeah, real.
is that literally what they're selling now is oxygen? You understand? But
Yeah,
I mean, it's a serious thing too. If it in the sense that Jed, state of emergency. That's why we had to, you understand? That's why this episode had to drop cutter, you understand? Because it's this is situation we reach where
Should I drop it from husband?
you ain't getting a PS5, you ain't studying to get a new football or a new football boots. I just buy a next new football boots. I don't want to do it 4 football boots, you understand? Oxygen. You understand what I'm saying? Joma, but that is a dangerous. So what men want to do? Just hop up on oxygen, because I now finished diving training, Jed, and I could tell you, oxygen have a sweetness in it, you know. When you started taking that oxygen, so it have a sweetness in it, you know. So when you're taking that, you understand? So men just grabbing up oxygen to pull up on a niceness.
That is what is going on. I mean,
The prepping.
It would have the men who want it for the niceness, something like your boy Steve-O and them who does take their hit or the whatever, right? But people going to hoard these things now, because we reach into that point of emergency. It is clear that the people who are in the higher echelons of society are going to be the ones who are going to get their resources now, because it is clear that out there is a COVID apocalypse taking place right now, pretty much, right? We are looking at 100, like 500, 600 day after day. All right. This is a very, very, very scary time for Trinidadians, right? People have the tension. I mean, we care, we kicks, we try to be ourselves and kick something all the time. That's us. But the tension in the air right now is a different level. Now, as Siriam was saying there, right? Treat the amount of people, right, who are recorded, okay?
True.
That is not the reflection of what is there on the ground. It could never be. It could never be. So if you think for a second that is what is happening, when you look at those figures, that is just what is recorded, right?
Yeah. You saying recorded. I read an article in the Express today about Express reporter who went to get tested. He waiting for his test. He say he would get a call back. He ain't gonna call back. He say he call them, how much time call them. Finally get through. And the nurse tell him, well, it's just 2 nurses for a couple thousand people that had a call back. We in a bad situation right now. This is a pandemic. So you had to be able to.
2 nurses for what? To do what? Exactly.
To call back people to tell them the results and speak to them and update them and things like
this
that.
Is the shit. This is the that I don't understand, right? And I would not doubt that even if that is an exaggeration, that it is not very close to that, right? And that is why the vaccination process and calling people for this and all these different things, to the communication to facilitate for these processes, for testing and for following up and all these things, is they don't have a handle on it properly, clearly, right? And then C's asked a question earlier about if it's 500 for 3 days. That and all changes from day to day, because they would say sometimes that the period is for a whole week. Why that is? Because, as we said last time, the relay of information sometimes from the center, where the spot of where you get that positive reading, because Jean-Marc, tell me, okay, a guy goes into Vic Lab, right, and he tests for COVID, he's positive. What next with that information? That has to be, they have a priority to call and tell somebody, what it is going on there.
Right. So privately,
no, the people, the info, the man who tests.
Do you mean the patient or the people in the lab?
The people, like the fact that a person, okay, so I go to a private institution, I test positive. How does that now filter into the big picture of people who positive and so on? Can you give me an example, a little scenario where?
The setup with private labs is that they have to report it to the government, all positive, negative, everything. Once you test, they have to report it because it's reportable. So all the positives will go forward, and it is kind of flag it, highlight the thing to the government. Now it is go based on the area, so you have it is go to a central area that will then watch the address and say it going out to these different counties, right? And then it's up to the counties to say, okay, this person come back positive. I'm gonna call this person, let them know they're positive. But note, the private labs will also do that as well. So the person would have known before, but the government will now officially call them and say, you're positive, we are quarantine here. We issuing your quarantine letter, you're officially quarantined by government. You can't leave your house, whatever. And then what I don't know is if they will contact you immediately where they talk to you about who you are to talk to. And
Right,
then
so what-
it have a next, they are called those people and talk to each one of them contacts and see if they need to quarantine, if they high risk, they're low risk, if they need to quarantine, if they don't need to, and then go to secondary contacts after that.
Right. So, like from what you're saying there, and this is obvious, there's a chain of communication that has to take place, right? And if we have, the human room for error, slackness, bubble. I mean, like let's be real. We do not know exactly how this information, how efficiently we are getting it. So sometimes you get these numbers and you're not sure when and how these numbers came to be. But that is the reality of the situation. That these are the positives that we have read. Now, all this being said, we are now in a state of emergency. A state of emergency is not just a lockdown. Now, a lot of different terms are used that have different connotations according to the law, according to the culture, like curfew. A curfew in a certain nation doesn't necessarily mean a state of emergency. Like in Belgium, they have curfew, right? But the curfew, they are not in a state of emergency per se. They don't have to call that because they in their their legal framework or whatever, it is understood that they could put a curfew and all that. Here, I would think that it seems that you cannot go into curfew and thing without calling a state of emergency, or at least it seems that way to me. Now, I could probably talk about this more when we have our other guests who we are bringing on in weeks to come who know about the legal side of this thing better, right? But my point is, and we do have information, right, from that's floating around right now, factual information on what the SOE is. Now, the thing is, the state of emergency, right, in Trinidad means that we no longer have the rights which we once had as a people, right? That is what it means, okay? Exactly what are these rights that have changed and so on? You have to read what has been let out in the Gazette and all of that, right? You have to understand what is the new policies, if you want to call it that, right? So the curfew is the one thing people thinking about. They're thinking about the fact that, okay, you can't be outside your house past a certain time. But there are other things that you have to take into consideration when it comes to the powers that have been given now to the armed forces and so on. All right? And what they are allowed to do, which we will get into, as I say, later on, maybe in another episode in depth. Right? So what are we telling ourselves about the state of emergency now? Is the state of emergency, and I ask you all in the comments to give your take on it. I ask in the panel here, do you all think that the state of emergency was warranted? And do you all think that it is going to be effective? Or is it that it might be somewhat effective or not effective? What do you all think? From I'm not going to give my take on it yet because let me hear what people have to say about this right now.
Take it away then, let's see.
Well, Judd, here's the first thing. Let me start with effective. You understand? I a wild man. So I could get a lawyer to get involved with this and let you know one time. The emergency power regulation said during the period of public emergency between the hours of 5:01 to 8:59 p.m. every day, a person shall not. And they get a list of things you can do. Last I checked, time does move forward. And time does move forward. So then 5:01 to 8:59 means that the state of emergency is during the day. You understand what I'm saying? So if it's during the day, so it really should be from 9:01 p.m. to 4:59 a.m. Because, as a teacher, as fire teacher earlier in maths, you have between X and Y and you have from A to B. So if
So
you're
let's
saying,
see. Let's see. Just a second. Can you just say that again? What that issue? What did they write again? Let me hear that again.
I going all out and say the state of emergency not valid. You
No,
understand? Or it's
but say
valid
that
for
again.
during the day. It's valid for during the day because the actual wording is during the period of public emergency between the hours of 5:01 a.m. to 8:59 p.m. every day, a person shall not.
Yeah,
And then they give you a list of things that you can't do. They get the time wrong. Time goes
They
forward.
didn't fix it though. They never fix it. I
Huh?
assume they fix it.
They never
They
fix
never
it.
fix it.
This is the thing that actually in the Gazette. You understand? So it's
I thought
from
that was Photoshop,
5:01
you know. I
to
thought somebody did
8:59,
that.
which is during the day. You understand what I'm saying? So you're saying that you can't do all this. So if anybody charge you or told you and say, well, listen, you have to go down in the station and whatnot, you just get a lawyer, get one of
No,
them.
no, but what you're saying there is this. But I think it is this. I think that it's. I don't think they need to correct it. If what you're trying to get at, Leslie, is that you're saying that in the wording of it, they are saying that from the date during the daytime, the non-curfew time, that these things can't be done. Right? You're saying is
Cannot
that
be done.
right? And that is what they're trying to say, because during curfew, you're just not outside. So what they're saying is during the hours in which you can be outside, you cannot be outside for these things. Going to work for non-essential reasons, this kind of thing. So that is why it is worded that way, because at the curfew time, you can't even be outside. You have no right outside. If you're outside and you get shoot, it is your fault, right?
No,
No.
but the regulation, this is the regulation to enact.
No, listen to me and think
Period.
about it. Think
No,
about
they
it.
said no here during the period of public emergency between the hours of that and that. This citing the public emergency period being between those times, you know. I mean, at the end
Right.
of the day,
Yeah,
it's
I understand.
semantics, you know.
It's semantics, yeah.
It's semantics, you know.
But you understand what I'm saying too about they're trying to tackle the non-curfew time, what you could do during that time. But yes, I understand the
Yeah,
semantics you're getting at,
I
right?
agree with that because
So,
they said they define the public emergency period between that.
right,
But notwithstanding
right,
that, at the end
yeah.
of the day, you know, if you look at the history, we went through three different stages, right? We went through stay-at-home measures, we went through lockdown, state of emergency, and I've noticed DOMA asking for even an extreme state of emergency. So apparently, you could even go for another level of state of emergency where they want lockdown on the whole Sunday, 24
ESW.
hours Sunday. You understand? So that is like a, I know what you call that, SOE 2.0. You understand what I'm saying?
Well,
So,
right now as we speak, they are going to debate in Parliament on Monday,
yeah.
I believe, if I'm not mistaken, about whether we should have the SOE for a period of 3 months, because the SOE is usually an SOE is by default 15 days. After which
Right.
it can, and I think the maximum it can be is 6 months. But we will pull up
It's
something on that just
90.
now.
Yeah. No, it's,
Right?
I think
Yeah.
it's 3 months, 90 days.
Okay, that's the most it could go. I think the
I think
extent.
that's
Yeah, I
most
think
of
that's
it.
the maximum.
I'm pretty sure
Okay.
someone's
Yeah.
correct me just.
Okay, I will check
Yeah.
out it. We'll find that
Yeah,
thing that
yeah. They would be able to
Emir
correct it.
Crown had put out. Now,
Yeah.
so you saying the SOE is
But you see,
not warranted?
Right. So you see, the question is now, what does the lockdown do?
Summit was 6,
And
yeah.
because it essentially is an extreme lockdown, right? And the extreme lockdown is the essential thing is what does the lockdown do to help the COVID situation? And the reality is that it does not do anything from a medical standpoint. What it does is that it gives the health institutions a chance to recover. You understand what
But
I'm
is that
saying?
doing something, though?
And that's what we established just now, that the health institutions is right up. You understand? So Basi Jamak laughing there.
I
Talk
see
to me.
Oh, good. I nearly threw on my device and all that thing there.
Right.
What do you mean? What do you mean the lockdown is given a chance to recover?
The-
I go on
the
work
health-
backwards. Actually.
So essentially, it doesn't do anything from a COVID standpoint other than to isolate people, right? And so is almost like a second parallel healthcare system, then using people to stay at home then in order to treat themselves.
A
So
healthcare
because
measure,
it's so
a
in
health
other words,
measure.
if the parallel healthcare system wasn't maxed out, you would not have a need to institute the lockdown. The lockdown is really to help the administration of the COVID situation, because you see it have a fine line, Jean-Marc, where people just think, well, you bring the lockdowns and the SOE in order to flatten the curve, as if it does something to the disease that helps you medically in some way. So I mean, we want to clarify
All right.
that really is a WHO measure, which is why WHO asking India and Nepal and they to please institute lockdowns and that kind of thing in order to help your health system cope with the extra cases that you have more.
Right. So let me ask you this, right? It
Right.
doesn't do anything to the disease itself. It's not that
Right.
COVID go and say, hey, it's a curfew, I can't come outside.
Correct.
Right? So what it's meant to do, as they just said in the comments, is to limit interaction. So you're limiting spread.
Right.
So the reason they dropped this thing is, yes, in my opinion, to flatten the curve, because at the end of the day, if you decrease spread, you decrease the number of new cases, you decrease the number of active cases. Right? So this thing now in place to stop interaction of people from house to house, from in your workplace, from wherever. So I mean, in that aspect, I think it does. So all right, I'm gonna ask you this as a sincere anti-SOE.
To limit widespread.
Well, widespread as opposed to what? Narrow spread. No, what was
Right.
the
So
opposite for
so
that?
within our house, because that was something that Dr. What was her name, boy? It was two people that had come and talk on the Prime Minister thing on Monday. It was Dr. Richards
Right. So
and Dr. Trotman.
yeah.
Right. So
Yeah.
she had talked extensively about, okay, when you get sent home, don't assume that you're on lockdown and you have nothing to do. It has certain specific things that you need to treat with. Though, so if you have a big family, 8, 9 people, right? You can't be positive, go home, and then just feel, well, you could act normal home. You had to isolate yourself. You had to clean. She had to say a few things.
Yeah.
Isolate
You
sick
do it from the same
persons.
plate and
Yeah,
go
you do
share
it
your
from the
KFC
same
and thing.
plate, mask properly, bathe in a different bathroom, that kind of thing. So it's basically that
But
you're
as a known
containing the
positive
spread
person.
within, correct, right. And she said it very difficult even for people who asymptomatic in order to treat with that situation. But she said notwithstanding the lockdown, the intent is that it's almost like you're creating small bubbles then in within people property in order to try and control a widespread. But if you don't have the lockdown, then people interacting by KFC, people interacting, around Etihad ground, they interacting, on the streets of Port of Spain. So that to me is the difference between widespread and basically a sort of controlled spread. So it's not that the spread can't happen. It could still happen, but in a more localized environment, which people still have a medical responsibility to kind of control even within our localized spread.
Right. So the thing is that it does limit some forms of spread, because the thing is, even if it had no lockdown, you're still going home to your family of 7 and your 5 dogs, because that's where you live, right? And you still could spread it home. They can't they can't enforce laws to stop that. So the most they can do is the state of emergency. Now you started off with telling me and you sounded anti-SU, but you sound like you're kind of for it now. I mean,
No, anti, you see, what I don't understand, because the first question Qatar asked is whether I think the SOE is effective, right? And what we have to understand is the triggers that a lot of people, and that's what happening in India right now, where a lot of administrators and leaders in the health sector responding purely to fear now, because they're just in such a state. And what I careful with is that the leaders in Trinidad, because we are this 100% scenario, that we start to respond to fear. You understand? So that lockdown, so notice that we were in a lockdown situation, and then all of a sudden we transitioned to SOE. So the question is, what would have changed from that lockdown period to the SOE that would have prompted them to move towards that SOE? Because we was at 100% capacity during the lockdown. We cases still climbing now. If you notice, if you listen to Dr. Trotman's and Dr. Abdul Richard's speech, it become almost emotional, which is something I never heard from them before. where they started to say, listen, you're reasonable society. And Dr. Trotman was like, listen, I'm praying for all this. All you need to, control all yourself and stay in the, is an extra level of desperation, which to me, I'm not sure what they expect the SOE to do unless there's information floating in the police arena, the national security arena that we are not aware of, where there's private Zesta parties or something that was still happening even during the lockdown, which is what would have then prompted. So is that the commissioner of police probably say, listen, we got to carry this thing further.
Personally, I think people were still liming by people's house. They were still having their little parties here and there. But the thing is about this new, okay, example, the two parts of the country I tend to frequent is San Fernando and St. Augustine, right?
Right.
I might be coming home in the night, whatever time, and I'll be driving past a bar in St. Augustine, and I see some men lining in the corner, the bar closed, have one little window on the bar open, and men just buying little beers here and there, and they're hugging up and they're liming and they're drinking. No mask, nothing. This is 9 o'clock in the night somewhere, so right? That's a convenient time I could there, but it was around that time. San Fernando, same thing. Driving to the hospital, see Pero Street, Sutton Street. You'll see people in the corners, liming, chilling, relaxing. It have nothing to say that they can't just be on the street in a group of 4. I mean, granted, they had no mask on, so they could have get pulled up for that. And then it have you might drive by a house and see 4 cars outside. The house looking quiet. And it's because everybody liming by the pool in the background. Everybody behind the house liming. And
this is lockdown time. This was during lockdown.
No, this is before the state of emergency was instituted. Because the thing is now with the curfew in place, you can't
before
go
state of emergency, but during lockdown. You see what I'm trying to establish?
Yes, I suppose. Yes. Yeah. Before curfew was instituted. Right? So it had a lot of that going on. And the thing is, now that it's going on, any kind of road look strange to the police now. So you don't want to be that one. I'm telling you from experience from last year when it had the curfew. You don't want to be that one car driving on the road and 3 police cars. I was working some night and I by a traffic light waiting to go to the hospital. Because I was come and go on working nights. And I by a traffic light there and like 3 police cars drive past me and I just there with me light to change and just braking light and then one pull up next to me and watch me. And I just I watch him and I point to my badge thing on the dash, which he have no clue. He couldn't see where it was. I just get stupid when I do that. And I guess he assumed I was going to hospital because I was right in the hospital and he just leave me. They will stop any kind of road now. If you walk around the road at this hour, you want to be that. So I mean, it have a part to play in stopping all them extra zest. Now, if you want to zest, you have to spend night at somebody's house. You have to be willing to go home that night if you want to stay out that hour. So making people second guess. And I mean, the mentality in Trinidad, personally, I find was real relaxed from Eastern before. And even after for a while, it was super, super relaxed. And people just let the guard down. I mean, fatigue and all of these things from this constant thing in your head. I can understand it. I fully understand it. So, I mean, this state of emergency really put back into people's head this serious things bad. Because, I mean, not everybody's seen in news 23 dead. That don't mean anything to some people. It's not anybody in their family dead. But I mean, yes, here's some heartbreaking stories sometimes. Like I know somebody who had a relative who passed away and they couldn't get somebody to come and do the last rites, the service, I don't know what religion there was, but the last rites, they couldn't get a religious person to come and do it. The 5 people had to just go and say a prayer in the funeral home, and that was it, cremate the body. And that was the whole service that they had. And I mean, sad things like that happening, and people don't hear those stories to know that as far as they know, then kind of alignment that they meet the partners, to drink a beer, have a little fun on a Friday night, and that's a normal Friday night for them now. So this state of emergency curfew thing to me locking all that type of stuff down, that type of movement.
I think
and I guess the military will be out with SOE too, huh?
Yeah, the military out.
It's supposed to be, but I haven't seen it yet.
I think we have to really get a good grip of what is going on. Now we have to pay attention to the fact that Trinidad and Tobago has been from the get-go from, let us say, March 12, 2020, right? March 12, 2020. So notice we're not talking about March 2021 people. From March 12, 2020, we had what we would call patient 0 in Trinidad. Trinidad's first case. Since that moment till this moment right now that we are in, right now as I speak, Trinidad has not been in a state of normalcy ever, right? In the sense that, yes, we have had a period of lockdown, and then before, another one recently, and now what we call the SOE, which since, let's say, April last year, people were saying when it started to spread, start to call SOE, which the government did not do at that point in time for many reasons, some of which might be to do with politics and so on, and the term SOE and the connotation of it and so on. Now, I think what we're trying to get at here, what Leslie was trying to say, what John Mark is trying to say, what I was asking, what people are saying, and what everybody's echoing is how we really reach here, right? And why is it that we did not see this coming? And that's my thing, right? How could the authorities not see this, what we are going through coming? Now, I am not going here it'll be conjecture for me to say maybe they knew this was going to happen. I don't know. Maybe it is that they were hoping for the best. I think every nation at some point is hoping for the best, because it is very hard to get a handle on this virus because of the fact that to limit the virus, you have to limit life. And by life, I mean what we as a human race have come to understand life to be. Life is getting up in the morning and earning your dollar, right? You have to get out there and earn your dollar for most people in the society, right? And there are many ways and means people do this, right? Many of which means getting out into the public, okay? And for some, it is not as structured as others. For some, for some, it depends on others to have a lack of structure and to come to the establishments and all of that, or whatever the case may be. And that is why we have faced this kind of battle with this thing, because here we're really going on. After patient zero, we had the closing of the borders on March 2nd, 2020. That closure of the borders, my friends, right? Brothers and sisters, right?
March when? When they close their borders?
March 22nd, 2020. 2020. Brothers
so
and
variants
sisters.
get in the country.
Well, right. You cannot say that at any point in Trinidad we had a normal life as a nation because we have closed our borders. A border closure means that there are people in our families who cannot get home, right? Citizens of this country cannot get home. So whether that might be, that is a debatable thing, whether that was or is a good thing or a bad thing, right? Because it's a very hard thing to control this virus, right? Now, we took that measure, okay? We had lockdown 1 on March 29, 2020, all right? In May 28, 2020, we were named top country for implementation of measures because we come hard and fast, right? And we jump in the thing and we start to lock down the border and pull up. No, in Oxford, and they come and, Mr. Dial Singh, he came and, he's like, we are on the list, all right, of the best. Oxford has called us so on. So, he like himself, right? Just like how he does like himself when he say we have 1 million syringes coming, right? Like the man, but don't forget he wept. He wept. Now, my point is, we were hard and fast with these measures, all right? Now, we would have had a 6-phase or so change, right? We would have had a six phase, I believe, not change, sorry, step down from lockdowns. So we had ceased bars, we had ceased cinemas, we had lockdown, we had a 6-phase turn down. And watch me, we got a handle on the rise, we got a handle on it, we came back down. Now, there was high level of lockdowns. I'm not sure what went on there. The synapses had a fire in my brain. I feel on it going into the system. Right?
Daddy vibes started catching it.
No.
Preach, Pastor, preach.
No, we had this lockdown, right? We had these phases, by the time we went into, let's say, I would say it is around August, what we had? Election. Now, I'm not talking about the spread during election. I'm talking about, look at how things change. We went from having this problem to not having the problem, to having elections, having the problem again, not having the problem again. All right? If you understand, we had a back and forth with this thing, but at no point did we really see the kind of deaths and levels we see now. Now, my thing was, I noticed since, let me say, Christmas. So we're looking at August, summer last year, things start to get back normalish. They go on and had elections, it spiked up a bit. When it spiked up a bit late last year, John Mark, was there any other measure that took place late last year? Or was it just that we were seeing, there wasn't no lockdown or anything, it was just that the cases were rising. The cases were rising, but we already understood certain things. So what I'm trying to get at here, people, is that we are new to this thing, okay? How we reach this SOE is a very, very, how to put it, very disheartening thing because of the fact that we locked down the borders for so long. All right, yeah, pull it up. Let them see, big it up too. Right? If I get it, bust the zoomish. Right, people? I could tell you that around Christmas, things going back to normal in Trinidad. Right? Things went back to normal in Trinidad. When you went to the malls were closed for a long while. On August and then they let open back and then you could eat in the food court and thing. All this time, people did not institute a new normal in their lives. All right? For whatever reason. And that is, that is human psychology. That is human beings. We're going back to going in the food court and eating with food and so on. We're going back to going in the mall. We're going back to living life. Yes, it had some measures still there. Yes, the border's still closed. But we all know that we have a compromised shoreline, so to speak. Right? Our shorelines are compromised in terms of people coming into the country. And the government knows this. Right? Again, I do not know what is the plan there. Now, fast forward, I tell myself, January, I would tell myself, the wave coming. I tell myself the wave coming. Because I was like, COVID can't go anywhere just because we have no cases. As we know, as we said, just because it have recorded cases doesn't mean it doesn't have much more now. Just because we have low recorded cases doesn't mean it spread. It was spreading. So I was waiting for the wave and come. Easter reached, the wave and come. But
Parasram had said that he knew, he basically agreed with you then. He saw the numbers coming back then as well too.
It's not even about the numbers. Well, I don't know if he envisioned it coming back. All I say is
saw it as in the data show that.
Not even data for me, pa. I big and I have sense.
Mm-hmm. Correct, right?
So you expected a wave after Christmas, right?
I expected, this what happened and now I expected it sooner. Right? I telling you, because I saw the fact that, not to say people are horrible and thing, but the fact is, with this virus, now I wasn't expecting it to be like maybe a crazy wave and the deaths we have now. But again, I was like, this thing going to spike back up because the things that we did to stop it, which was limiting movement, we can't do it forever. As I said earlier, people have to live, dollars have to make, economy have to take place, people have to get their jobs back, people have to go and wait tables, people have to go and eat out, whatever, because that is how we make our living, many of us and so on. And I was just saying, when this thing going on, boss? Now, I am trying to understand how it is that I, as a layman, who just walking on the ground, are big and I have sense, seeing what's going on, how could we not realize that this is going to happen? Now, what my thing is, why is it we have to go into, and I think this is what Shankara trying to get at too, although he seems like, as I say, not anti the SOE. It's like, what did we really expect? What was the game plan? Because if we saw this up coming, which we should have seen coming, why is it where only when the cases start to rise in, when was it that we get the first lockdown recently? It was in recently, April 14. April 14. Look at the April 14 lockdown to number 14. Number 14
right
on the screen.
Right after when the Brazilian, yeah.
Right? No, well, this is the thing now. People say they don't think
April.
crowds is the issue. It can't be that crowds is not the issue. The thing is that you can't quantify when it's going to swell, when it's going to reach to that point where it becomes. This is what I think now. Again, I'm not the scientist. My point is, we should have been understanding that with the movement back. Remember, with a limited movement that happened over half a year last year, things get to simmer out. With the build back up of movement, now I was feeling as soon as it start back, it would happen. But the movement build back up, if you look at it, kind of equalize off. We spend some months kind of out of it. We spend some months getting back into normalcy, and now we're spending time getting back into this situation. And this is where, and it was coming. So my question, like what Shankara is saying, what do we expect when we bring the lockdown now that we already in the situation? So why it is we didn't have like little steps, okay, like Easter, like people saying for Easter and so on, we would say, okay, we instituting certain rules for Easter that people don't want, that like when we know we're going to have much more activity. Again, I don't want to get into anything about going to big one thing. My point is not even Easter per se, because since Christmas I've seen it. So what I am getting at right now is that we have a lockdown now. We have a SOE. It is going to limit movement. What next? When we stop this, when this done, what do we do next? Are we hoping to vaccinate the whole country? I do not know. Can we vaccinate the whole country? Looking at our rate of vaccination, how are we going to get a handle on this thing? And what is the government or the authorities doing? I mean, because the people have to change. What are we instituting to not have this thing of where, okay, go and play the fool? All right, stop play the fool. Go and play the fool? All right, stop play the fool. How are we going to manage this thing? The SOE was always going to happen at some point, only when things reach a point where it couldn't get any better. And reach that point now, people, because it's very bad. And clearly the variant is so dread, it is killing people at an alarming rate now. The variant has to be very dread. So my piece say there, that is what I think going on. If we look at the data, right? And we look at what is happening in the hospitals, right? If we look at this chart right here, all right, the graph, you are seeing that per million people, this is far from normal. This is almost what we call apocalyptic, if you want to call it that. Right? I mean, I could sound like a fearmongering or whatever, but I don't think so. For a place like Trinidad, I don't think. I mean, is there any other nation right now with our size that having this kind of rate? People, can anyone?
Yeah. So let me bring that one, Kata. Let me show you how accurate it is. What you're saying there, right? So this is Seychelles, all right? Seychelles would have gotten. Yeah. So this one was they on 50-something% vaccination. Right, both AstraZeneca and Sinopharm, majority Sinopharm, and you would see they too attempted to flatten the curve. Let me try and see if I could get it bigger. Right. So what it's showing is that from December, which is when their vaccination program start, their cases start to climb. And one of the things that we had pointed out in the last show with Dr. Sriram is that we have to be scientific with this thing, people. We can't just look at that and jump on Seychelles and say, well, it's the vaccination that caused it. We had to be scientific. Nobody can do studies to demonstrate that it's the vaccines that cause it. But what we know happened is when the vaccines had started to roll out in Seychelles, they are a country that very similar to Trinidad, both in ethnicity. They have carnival like Trinidad, everything. It actually have a lot of Seychelles people living in Trinidad, and it have a lot of, partnerships and whatnot. So it's a lot of similar social situations. What would have happened is that people relax when they get, they're not like Trinidad where we fighting to get vaccines. So imagine if Trinidad had get 1.4 million vaccines March of this year, and they say everybody come and take. And Trinidad would be talking about two carnival. We'd be talking about let we do one this year to make up for this year and do one next year. You understand? That is what would have gone, and that is what happened in Seychelles. And the CNN article talk a lot about how everybody moving like it's normal. You understand? but we had to be mindful of this variant. So we even don't know what variant Seychelles experience, right? And in our case, we
I think
experience it.
they have the South African
They
variant
have
is
the
their
South
problem.
African one, right? And another episode.
They got that,
we're
that's the
going
one that mashing them up.
Correct. And we want to really talk to an epidemiologist or a virologist in an episode to come to talk specifically about variants, because there's a serious science behind that as well. But what it shows people is, look at the numbers for Seychelles and how this thing climbing. And I want to bring we back to Trinidad. The point we're making is that it's not fear mongering. It's a matter of, this is what the science showing. Dr. Parasram, notice you're really hearing about Dr. Parasram again. Why? Because the man speaking too much truths or something like that? You understand what I'm saying? I don't know what is the reason, but I know when the man used to talk, he used to talk solid. And I remember around the Easter time, he come to me as almost like a Fauci kind of situation. I mean, a lot of people, I think I have faith in Fauci and what he's saying, because the man seemed to be making sense. You understand? Same thing with Parasram. But one of the points Parasram made is that the cases that coming up now, which was during Easter, we were seeing signs of that happening before. So the question has to do with the trigger. And the same principle applies to the transition from lockdown to SOE. What is the trigger? Is it the number of cases? Because the reality is that this number of cases, for all intended purposes, is going to continue. And people fickle in such a way. So now we have 100,000 Sinopharm. I hope that doesn't mean that people, this vaccine hesitancy thing going and start to creep back in. You understand what I'm saying? Because when they had the 500 cases and all the deaths, everybody was panicking. Listen, we want vaccine. Okay, take vaccine now. You understand what I'm saying? But at the same time, we of course want to be responsible here in saying, always analyze the risk from your perspective, bearing in mind your own comorbidities and that kind of thing before you take the decision to go to the vaccine. But, go ahead.
You know
But
what? Okay, take it.
Yeah, Jean.
Jean-Marc, what's your thoughts on that Seychelles scene?
To be honest,
Seychelles, by the scene,
right?
Seychelles.
Exactly. So, okay, I agree with having a spike in cases, and it does look suspicious. They get vaccine and boom, it's at a spike, right? I mean, that could be a cause and effect kind of thing. It can't really relate to necessarily, as let's say, you had to put on the data, you had to do the research.
Correlation
Research not
is not
simple.
causation.
Right, research
boy.
is not as simple as we think it is, right?
Take
On
a
the
little fire
other
for that one.
end of things, see? On the other
More
end of
fire,
things,
lava. Anything now?
Yeah.
Bro,
that sounds
Right.
more like Tarzan. Just for the record.
Yeah.
Use your
All right.
brain.
It is my birthday, right? It's my birthday, bitch. Now listen. You know what I find real sad about this thing, Dread? Is like we come and we was very proactive in the beginning. We come as we so proactive. And now it's like that had no real benefits in a way because of the fact that we sleep on certain things and the public has a lot to blame to take. At the end of the day, the virus, we always use this quote from a very wise guy. He said, the virus does this thing where it spreads from person to person, right? And at the end of the day, right, the public, and the general, you see, it is the culture and the psyche of the people is such that if we do not understand that, human psychology, like, it go happen to me now, boy. Mm-hmm. If we really look at this as a collective, Dread, if we really, really think about it properly, right? Mm-hmm. When we got back out from August into going back out after the, elections, and again, this is why I be vex people. With a matter what party, they went on the campaign, though. They went on the campaign, people went in groups. Mm-hmm. My point is, if they could do that, and then every nation did it, every nation did it. Anything about it, right? If they could do that, who really is the people who know how to act, right? So this problem is as I say, people say, when I say people jackass in the scene, they say, oh, you're blaming the people, but when I say Trinidad Tobago jackass in the scene, Now that is trademarked under Rowley. Now I don't jackass is seen, but the thing is, it is from him come straight down to the piper. They have all done it. They are not. No one is acting in a way that you're actually like when it comes down to brass tacks. Now we are reactionary. So you're proactive all the time, but you didn't take stock of the border. I mean, not the border in Piaco. We have a lot of right now in the hospitals. There are many COVID positive Venezuelan immigrants. Many, right? That's no secret. Right?
Many.
When again, I am not an anti-immigrant person, right? I'm not on that. At the same time, we are in a pandemic and we need to get a control on the situation. It's not like, before people crossing over just to get a better life. People crossing over to get a better life in a place where everybody dying. Not everybody, but you know what I mean. Okay.
Yeah, but Kata, let me ask this. I mean, because you talk about the virus is a thing where it moves from person to person. So 2 comments I want to make before we jump over there. Even moving from person to person, and the Dr. Trotman had talked about this. If you get sent home for self-quarantine, right? 4 people in your family, but you have a dog, and that dog liming with you in there and you positive. Could the virus go from person to animal to person?
I don't think
so. It's not just person to person.
It could be person to animal. I remember some tiger somewhere get it, and
animals got it, but I don't know if people get it from animals. I don't know. I can't say.
Yeah, I don't know if it's because it's a zoonotic virus.
They didn't necessarily prove the animal can give it to the human.
No, this is it, people. This is it. We always looking at this and saying, well, it can't be this cause. It can't look how it can shoot up all of a sudden. We have to understand, and again, this is just me speaking from a layman perspective. But when you look at the situation, when the virus spreads enough, mathematically speaking, the more people have it, the more serious cases you're going to have. The more serious cases you have, is the more people going to get tested because one, when you're so dread with it, you're going to get tested because I might have the COVID, I'm feeling like I'm going to die, right? Then what's going to happen? Everybody in your family and network have to get tested too. And that is how the figures start to blow up because now it is mandatory due to the powers that be saying, swooping in and saying, contact tracing, everybody who touch you, come, let us go, or let us handle the scene. Let me get the data. So you're going to see it balloon. So what I'm saying is we could never really gauge exactly how, because it's not Ebola and it's not these kind of things. So as soon as you get it, you're going through. We could never really gauge how long it could take to really see the data rise because it really depends on when a certain amount of people get it enough that the average, like for example, if a lot of, and again, when I say the SOE to police certain parts, we don't know just a party and obviously going on during the last year, during lockdown, during everything. It happened those things obviously because that is part of the culture down there. Men out there, the whole energy is like that can't be keeping me back. Something you can't see, never, right? So at the end of the day, when this thing's spreading the way it's spreading. Now, in his SR party, that's an example. In his SR party, young people getting it, everybody must just get a little cold and say, yeah, boy, I had a little cold day. You understand? Nobody, but it spread more. Then what's going to happen? When people in the upper echelons of society now get it, they are the people who could go for healthcare. They are people who could get tested easy. There's people who are more conscientious. And then you're going to see more figures rise. So the point is, we can't just watch the figures and say, wait, watch all of a sudden. It's because it's all over. And the more it's all over, the more you're going to see it feed into the data because when one person gets it in a certain part of society, they're going to test their whole family. They're going to test the people they're working with. They're going to test. So like, it's not at all, because in the crowds, it must spread. Let's be real. It does spread in the crowds. Come on. I mean, it must spread. How else it goes spread? I mean, it's from person to person. It must spread. Right. But again, spreading in a crowd don't automatically mean that everybody in that crowd going to they're not going to be, can't breathe the next day, right? It can't be that they can't breathe the next day.
But Kata, like how you talk about the data spreading and that kind of thing, and that's all well and good, right? And after the episode, we will share. I see somebody asked to share the history of COVID in Trinidad that we pulled together. Why it was so hard to even pull that together, Kata? I mean, we saying data and that kind of thing, but how come we wanted to show the people that we know there is something the people looking for, and we had to spend 3-4 days pulling information together from isolated things just to tell the story of COVID in Trinidad? I'm sure when we put it on the Heights room, you can't find that nowhere else. How come it don't have people?
Exactly, and this comes back to last week's episode.
Knowledge is
My boy
power.
Nick.
Correct.
My boy Nick made a lot of excuses for the media and thing, and I know, and much power to my brothers in the media, because I have many of them. But at the end of the day, it's not only just the mass media too. When you think about literature being produced by, I mean, Trinidad is really luck when it comes to these things, when it comes to anything to do with literature, dog. You know what I'm talking about? Like, you know, we content, when it comes to these kind of things, it ain't there now, boy. It ain't there. And the media have a part to play in that. They're just not on it like that. You know, we don't have enough, and it's not even just the main media, and the thing is like all the other areas where people should be put in, like what we, again, I just had to say, this is what we're trying to do, you know. I mean, that because they don't have enough of it going on, and if people need to try to get, like, you know, the data, compile it, put it in a way people can digest it. That is another thing that, again, people will say, oh, yeah, what the government do anything, but they are the people we are paying tax dollars to keep things under control. They're supposed to be getting this data together in digestible way for people to kind of gauge what's going on. But again,
that's what the Heights room for. We go deal with that.
Right? The mask of this. What benefit is this to them to give all that information?
None.
The benefit.
It don't benefit them. You're correct. It don't benefit them.
The benefit to me.
It exposes.
I didn't ask the benefit to you, you know. I asked
no.
The
benefit.
It don't benefit them. You're correct, John. I can understand.
Right.
It don't benefit them.
It don't benefit them.
And that's how this work here.
It's about treating people with respect. You understand what I'm saying? And understand that, listen, you have an educated population who just not interested in the dotage talk and whatnot. Give them the information, people, and that is the position. Now think about it. That is the position that Dr. Richards, because I mean, Dr. Richards kind of emerged as a kind of leader over the past few months, I think, in terms of how she talk and that kind of thing. And that's what she always talk about. And she said, listen, Trinidad is a respectable nation, and she always talk about, you know, respecting the people and that kind of thing. And that to me is what Heights Room is about. Is listen, knowledge is power. You understand what I'm saying? That you put it in the hands of the people responsible, and then they will start. If it is you're then not complying and whatnot, that's where enforcement comes in. But at the end of the day, you know, you have to share the information, you know.
But okay, let me ask you something, right? When last you give Trinidadian population something and get back positive things from it? Generally, overall positive things from it. Like, I mean, Trinis like to take things from generally from the government or any mass of power, and take any information they get from it and just twist and turn and find the angles and make it look as bad as possible. And I mean, knowledge is power, yes, but power corrupts. You have to consider all of those things, and you have to consider the fact that you're giving people complex information to then take what they want from it and try to give it out to the population, and you have influencers saying very strange things and getting banned and all kind of chaos and things like that, right? So,
well, you know,
I don't understand that. Yeah,
SJWs out here, you know, SJWs, I is one of them, you know, I SJW myself, you understand?
I know you're SJW, I know you're SJW.
Yeah. I mean, big up the SJWs and them. Hey, I tell you this, but watch me, I tell you something, never a dull moment in this place, horse. I'm telling you, right? When it comes per capita, for when it comes to the Rabs and the Bacchanal, dog, when it comes to the Rabs and the Bacchanal, dog, never a dull moment. Per capita, I'm telling you the memes,
right? So why do you want to give out information in our place that's just going to come and bomb you up after now?
Again, so as I would say, it's not really, it's not their job to give it out because it's not in their interest to give it out, because as I say, also besides people not being able to use it properly, it does serve their interests. So that is why we need more people to use the education that they have, the understanding that they have, to, you know, take the media and the platforms they have, the social media and so on, to put things out. You don't have to always wait on Akash, Sam, Maru, and Colin, Hussein, and all of them to do everything. You understand? And big up to the media and the people in the media who working hard. Big up to the people in the ministry who working hard. Big up to the frontline workers. But the citizens, besides that responsibility we have to social distance and thing, we also have to bridge that distance in our minds with understanding this thing together.
So I take a minute just to plug and say, okay, one, they're working very, very hard in not just the healthcare workers out there, the people working in epidemiology for the government and those people who do these stats, putting together all these things, analyzing, helping plans move forward. I have somebody I happen to get in contact with just by chance on Instagram, and they's be doing things all 2 in the morning. Where I say like their days work from home because there's all statistical computer type work, but them going all through the night, all through the day, and it's going on for months upon months upon months. I understand you're not putting out the information you want, but they're trying. I honestly must say they're very, very overwhelmed as it is. And also on top of that, I know you had mentioned the 2 nurses to 1,000 people or whatever. I have spoken to people in those offices, not necessarily nurses, but doctors doing that stuff. They're very overwhelmed now. Now that they have so much people that need contact on a day-to-day basis, and so much people to contact and trace and do all these things and organize tests for and organize. They went from being able to handle it at a point maybe early in the year, and it just gradually got worse, and it snowball effect out of control. So I will say they're definitely working hard and around the clock and have been doing so for months. So I just had to put that out there and say it's not that they're slacking on the job or anything like that.
Yes, brother. I totally say so. If anybody in the chat wants to give us a closing remarks, I just want to say that it is a complicated situation. As Brother Siriam does point out, it is complicated and clear cut. But at the end of the day, we have to these days, it have a saying, you're big and you have sense. And that is very negligible and up to interpretation. But in these times, people, information is important, knowledge is important, discussion is important, and taking it upon yourself to go that extra mile in whatever way you can to help the situation, whether it be through social media post, whether it be calling somebody and asking them if they understand something, right? Whether it be asking somebody who's an elderly person if they know how to call to get the vaccine, right? These are things that we can do as a people to help out the situation now. And as Torian is saying there, we know we didn't really get around to handling certain people questions and such, but we will get around to it. And I just want people to really understand that this is not something that we can just go back to normal to ever now. Until this is no longer an issue on the earth, we could never go back to normal with this situation. And we have to start thinking, how are we helping the situation, people? How are we helping it? All right. And it does not always have to be what everybody else wants to hear. Everybody has their own take, but let us try to do things in such a way that the end result of what you are doing is something tangible that can help the situation. That's all I could say. Any other closing remarks from my brothers on the panel?
Yeah, I would just say one last thing before handing over to Torian and then Joe Mark to close. Just that, listen, we just have to keep the discussion continuing, people. You know what I mean? And as the discussion continue, is different truths as emerge. And you know what I mean? It's just about getting that truth out there. You understand? And from that truth, you're in a position to make a more educated decision. We here in the fight for the long run, you know what I mean? COVID ain't going on win the battle, you know what I mean? We going on win that battle, and we generals in the heights room here, we leading the trail for you. You understand what I'm saying? We go and drop in some of that, whatever research we do, we go and drop it. So all you could research it for yourself. And don't forget to like and subscribe the page and whatnot. And next week we have a hot episode for all you on artificial intelligence. We're going to bring an MIT alum to come and talk to all you about the technological singularity and Neuralink, which is the new technology coming with Elon Musk to replace the phone. So you're going to talk some real heights next week. So I good day. We will pick up.
Honestly, I think I have said this before previously. I think we as Trinbagonians need to take responsibility ourselves. Can't be always government this, government that. And I read something the other day, a comment I believe it was on Facebook. When the SAE now dropped, people start to ball, teachers getting free money. And it's like, well, teachers still working, a lot of teachers still teaching children at home. They're still at home. Children still going to primary school. I have friends who children at home, friends who scrambling to get this to stay home with the children to help because they have laptop, sharing laptop between the parents and the children to do the online learning. So I think it's a collective effort for all of us to get through this COVID. To echo Leslie again, put in some research, folks. The information is out there. It might be a little hard to get, but it is out there, right? Ultimately, be safe. Remember, causation is not correlation. That's it from me.
Yeah, Jamak, and we off the dock. Let me get the dock.
Oh, well, just want to say happy birthday, Kata. You have 2 hours left in our time zone.
Thank you.
I want to say
Bad.
as that you mentioned that Seychelles thing, people gonna start questioning the vaccines, questioning Sinopharm, questioning AstraZeneca. I would like to point out first of all, they're saying up front that the severity of the disease there isn't as bad as what it would have been without it. So I mean that's something
And
I
that
remember.
is UK, and that is South Africa variant. So
Yeah. That's South Africa variant. And as Torian said, Trinidad needs to take responsibility. I mean, I agree. SU came a little late, but we need to do what we got to do to get us under control. Yeah, everybody had to keep safe, keep conscious, and maintain the sprint because this thing is not a short thing. It's a marathon run here.
Definitely,
But
brother.
keep up the good work, fellas. I mean, thanks for having me on. I mean, they're doing some good work. Put out some numbers, some research. That'll be some real interesting stuff to put some comments on a piece of information you put there. That gonna be a good conversation for people to argue on in the comment section.
true.
Let's see, we go fix up a nice graph. We go fix up a nice font and thing for that thing you do.
Yeah.
We can't have it looking like Ketos and them thing on the screen. Right? We go and do that. Commit thy hearts. You know, Jamak is a general in the Heights room always. People, thank you for spending my birthday with me tonight. All right, my birthday night. All right. You don't know. Bless up. Much love. Respect.
Blessing. Yes, I.
Like that.